When we are building data pipelines, we need to consider how we can scale them and how we can distribute the computation in a cluster. Here I'm going to show how we can scale Airflow and run Airflow task in a scalable manner. Also how we can distribute Spark on a Kubernetes cluster. First, I'm going to walk through how we can scale Airflow. First, we need to add the broker URL and result backend URL. So Postgres is mandatory here, and we need to select the executor, the Celery executor. In running, also we need to run Celery worker, and also if you want a flower in order to monitor, here on a Airflow master or main Airflow, we need to run all of this db init and create some user, web server, and a scheduler. And in Airflow queue, and just like here, Spark queue, we only need to run Airflow Celery worker and Spark queue. And in our DAGs, we only need to mention our queue is Spark, and whenever we want we can scale out this queue, Spark queue. Yeah, so here's just in order to start them, we can just say make pg, run the Postgres, make Airflow, and start Airflow and Airflow Spark queue. In our next station, I'm going to explain how we can build a Spark Docker image, also how we can create a locally Kubernetes cluster and deploy our Spark on Airflow and Kubernetes cluster. At first we need to make build Spark in order to build the Docker image. I'll close this file. In a Spark Docker image, we have, let's check it out. We can install some packages, and we can specify whatever version Spark we need to have, and also Python version, whatever we need, and also Java. And here we can install packages if you want. I'm going to install this package in order to crawl Bitcoin and get the Bitcoin data, so I'm going to install it in the Docker image, and in this Spark I'm going to import it. Another thing that I need to mention is jar files. If you are going to connect to Postgres, here I'm going to connect to Postgres, we need to add these jar files into the Docker image. Also we need to add every code that we have and in a directory. I just here create this working directory. I add these files into that working directory, so in the future we going to run that the file in the directory here by using Spark master Kubernetes, and I'm going to mention this address as a master. So here we have the Docker image, so we need to tag this Docker image. This is the command Docker tag. This is the Spark Docker image that has been built, so we're going to tag this with this address. What is this address? It's based on your local machine. You can find it very easily by running this command. I'm going to show this command here. This is the address that you the docker 0 address in your local machine, so it's cool. Second, we need to start the Kubernetes local Kubernetes cluster. I'm going to use kind. It's really easy to build it up and it doesn't get a lot of resources. So this is the bash script, but I'm going to run it in order to create a kind cluster, which is a local Kubernetes cluster. And here also I'm going to create a Docker registry in order to push the Docker images and use it in here. As you can see, container image, this is the image that we are going to use. So by running this command, this cluster will be running, and after the cluster is up and running, we need to create a service account. By running these two command, I'm going to create service account, and in our Spark job there's two certificate and token we need to add when we run Spark submit. The token is going to be this one. When we're running this command, this will create the token. As you can see, we need to copy this token and add it to Airflow variable. I'm going to use it in this Spark submit here. And also we need a certificate file that's going to be extracted by running this command here. It will create this certificate file and add it to Airflow decks, as we can see here, the certificate. So this is two things that if you are not running the Spark on the cluster and outside the cluster here on Airflow, we need to specify these two here. And I'm going to two executor here. I'm going to distribute it on a two node here. It will create two executor, and working very good. And this is the file that I'm going to run at the first task, and this is the second task, the transformation on the Bitcoin data. Let's check out the code, and it's just like this. I'm going to extract the Bitcoin data and create a data frame and write it to Postgres. And then the second one, it's going to do some transformation on the data. We can find the transformation here. This is the transformation. As we can see, there's going to be a query running on the data, window function and stuff like that. So we know how we know how the Spark job is going to be. Also, we know how to tag the Docker image, and finally we should push that to our registry. Make Docker push, and we'll push the Docker to the registry so we can run it and use it. And as we can see, when I was running the Spark job, it has two executor, as I mentioned, and after the job is done, the executor will be closed. Also, there are some script in here. We can get the kind cluster by this command, and in order to know that what address we should run for Spark master, we should run this command, cluster kubectl cluster info, And also I have specified what port that I'm going to use, so this is the port, and what what is going to be my host. Also, this is going to be the host that I have mentioned here. This is the host, so the Spark master is going to be just like this. It's really not much complex. So let's run them and check the result. This is the Airflow DAG for that, for those two Spark jobs, and here are the results of initial load data. As we can see, the master deployment cluster, using executor memory, we can specify everything here, and the Python file that I'm going to use is this command, and also the script that I'm going to run is that file, primary resource. So this is the log that shows waiting and container creating. After the container creating, it will start running, and finally it will be completed. And the second task is going to be just like this one, very same process, but it's very different results. And if you can check the result here, this is the main data, initial load data, also this is the fact data that has been created, and the raw data. Yeah, this is it. This is the repository that I'm going to add it to description to this video also. And here, in conclusion, we created data pipelines on Spark and Kubernetes. Also scaling the workflow. For example, if you have many Spark jobs in parallel, we can scale the workflow that I showed in here. Airflow Spark queue, we can scale it out if you have so many parallel Spark jobs, and also we can scale the Spark jobs on Kubernetes, and it's really cool. If you use Kubernetes, we can specify, we can have control, we have control on what version if we want on Spark, and what packages do we want, and which version of these packages if you can use. So it's really good, and that's it.